Welcome to today's RUC People. I'm delighted to be joined by Roxanne Botman, who is with us for a short period in Cape Town, but is currently living in London in the UK. So welcome, Roxanne. Great to have you.
Thank you, Russell. Thanks, Eli.
So Roxanne, firstly, tell us what you're doing in the UK. How did you come to be there, and what you're doing, and how is it?
Yes, I moved to the UK in 2018. The main driver, to be honest, was that my partner, Catherine, we were dating, and she realized that she needed to make a move for her career as a performing artist. And we were very serious already. I knew we were a serious couple, and so I said, okay, I'll see what I can do, because I wouldn't just go there and hope for the best. So I applied to do my MBA studies, and so that's what got me to the UK originally. And so I did that in my first year. I left in 2018, and then I graduated, and now I'm in my second job in the UK in London. And I'm working as people and culture manager at a small tech company in London. I've just started in November, so I'm working from here now. It's been very hectic, working full time and trying to use my evenings to connect with people. But I've been really enjoying the warm weather and just being around my people again. Yes.
Which part of London are you living in?
So the east of London, close to an area called Canary Wharf, and the area that I live in is called Isle of Dogs. Yes, I actually moved here, so we moved from where we were living, Plaster. I remember the last time we checked in, yes. So we moved to a new home. It's called Isle of Dogs.
Right.
Yes.
And how have you enjoyed living in London?
I have really enjoyed the experience. Of course, the last 2 years, not being able to come home has been a challenge I did not expect at all. I mean, of course, I expected to miss people when I left, but I thought that I would be able to visit. And so the last 2 years were really tough, lots of ups and downs. Very grateful to have such a loving relationship and supportive relationship there, but it was also really hard. But outside of that, I really found the experience really valuable in terms of my personal development. I was able to explore who I was outside of my upbringing, outside of what the image or the perspectives, or worrying about the perspectives of others or the reputation I'd built for myself around people who know me. And so I could really have space to explore myself and be free. Also, the level of safety there was like my nerves had to settle after being in a country where, as a woman, as a queer woman also, my nerves are on edge. You're constantly on edge and worrying, looking over your shoulder, and moving there, allowing myself and my nerves to just settle and calm down and feel free to walk around, to enjoy the space, to have good transport systems and things like that. So making the most of that experience. But the weather's not my favorite, so I don't see myself staying there forever. Yeah.
Having lived in London myself for a few years, I know that it's very cold, but it's also very anonymous, very large, and you can be whoever you want to be there. It's probably very different from growing up in a home environment, a small city like Cape Town, in the sense that a lot of people know each other. So
Yes.
that level of freedom. Did you know people when you went there?
I knew a few people, so I left, and there was a safety net of like 4 people that I knew.
Yeah.
And that made a big difference because I could land somewhere that was safe and secure, and I could take my time with finding my own place and adjust to paying in pounds while after leaving my job and becoming a full-time student.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful. And then Catherine, we were there together as well, and we sort of went on the adventure together. So, and we've grown and created a really wonderful life. So I'm really happy. I definitely, even as hard as the 2 years have been, I don't regret moving there. It was also a big change for me in my career. As part of that introspection and getting to understand myself, I developed a sense of direction in my career as well. So, was it last year or 2020? Definitely influenced by the Black Lives Matter resurgence, the movement that was researched. I realized that my passion for diversity and inclusion is strong, and that's where I want to direct my career. And so I went through a long period of developing myself in my career and allowing myself to not limit my thoughts on what my dreams are and open up and just be open. And then I got this job as people and culture manager at a tech company where I can really think about these things, and in a role where I can influence change. And so that's been really wonderful as well.
Wonderful. Must be very exciting.
Yes.
And what brings you back to South Africa now, other than obviously wanting to reconnect with family and all of that? But I understand there's a more special purpose why you're here.
Yes. Last year in October, my partner Catherine and I, we had a civil ceremony in London, and we had it with 8 people and a few people on Zoom as well. But it wasn't the celebration that we envisioned, and we have a very close knit of family and friends here in Cape Town. So we'd wanted to come back and have a celebration also for both of us. On both sides, we are the first openly queer relationship, so we found that that was also an important thing to celebrate with our family members and show who we are and allow them into our joy. And we planned for it to happen in December, and then the beginning of December, end of November happened, and we were ready to fly, and our bags were packed, and then the irrational travel bans happened, and we had to cancel our plans, and it was very heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie, it was very heartbreaking. And as soon as things calmed down and settled, we were able to plan this trip, and we're having our celebration at the beginning of March.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So, Roxanne, take us back to the start and a little bit about your family background. Some people will know your mum, Beryl, is part of this church. She's part of our church council now. But tell us a little bit about growing up, what that was like, and your family.
Yes, I'm happy to share. I was born in Wynberg, in the church house, because my dad was a minister at the Wynberg United Reformed Congregation. And so I was born into the church, into a joint family. My parents with their children got married like a year or so before I was born. And I was the youngest. I'm still the youngest. And we grew up, I've lived all over Cape Town, from Wynberg to the northern suburbs, Belhar, where I went to school. My early years of schooling at a school called Erika Primary, and that was a predominantly coloured school and predominantly coloured neighbourhood, and so that was my context. Although life with my parents, my life was a lot bigger than a lot of my peers and schoolmates. I was able to travel to the US, and I had some schooling in grade 1 and 2 in the US. Later years, traveled to Switzerland as well, where my dad was working, and we went there as a family. So in those days, I had already experienced privileges that a lot of people in my community and children in my community didn't get to experience. And I would say that was quite an interesting experience or position to be in, because I was shy and I almost felt bad. I almost felt bad to share those experiences because I didn't want anyone to feel bad about themselves. And I remember having these conversations with my friends, teachers, and my parents, and they said, people want to hear those stories and enjoy your experiences through you, and let their perspectives open through me and sharing those stories. But that's not something that was really comfortable for me. So it took me a bit of time to really get comfortable with sharing the bigness of my little life at the time. And then my dad was working at the University of Stellenbosch, and we moved to Gordons Bay as a family. And at that stage, my eldest siblings were slowly starting to move, and we moved to Gordons Bay. But just before that, I realized I already went to high school in boarding school, Danish Girls High in Stellenbosch. And I was very excited to go to boarding school because I really enjoy independence, and it was just fun. It seemed really fun to me. One thing that I think at the time I didn't recognize the impact on it, but maybe in retrospect, looking back at little moments, the experience of going from a predominantly colored school to a predominantly white school with white teachers as well, was nuanced, I would say. I had a really wonderful time in high school. I know a lot of people find that a very difficult time in their lives, but I had fun. It was like one big sleepover in boarding school. We just could enjoy the time, the silliness, and also just working together and growing together, because I spent more time with those girls.
Was it a girls' school?
Yes, it was a girls' school. More time with them than my own family. So it was like a little family of its own. But looking back, I think more so, not necessarily the experience of being a white student amongst being a colored student amongst predominantly white, but my social circles were always very diverse, so that experience didn't impact me so much as I think the experience of having mostly white teachers and the way myself and other black and colored children would be corrected about like the way we're pronouncing things or being underestimated with our academic capabilities. Those are the things that at the time didn't really impact me. My parents noticed my mom was very active and in parent-teacher conversations and protecting me and defending me and making sure that the teachers are recognizing me as a capable person. But I think in retrospect, I could reflect on that time. And luckily I wasn't alone, so I can reflect with my friends and things like that. So that was my schooling, but really it was a wonderful time in my life, and I made some amazing friends.
Can I ask, Roxanne, you have two very academic parents. Your father eventually became the Vice Chancellor at Stellenbosch.
Yes.
Your mum, has gone on to do a PhD, was a teacher.
Yes.
Did you feel a pressure to take studies seriously? Were you a keen student? Did you have a sense of what you wanted to study, what you wanted to do when you left school?
I would say that my parents didn't put intense pressure on me. They didn't put intense pressure on me. I think I enjoyed school already. I really enjoyed school from when I was in primary school. So the keenness to do well at school was already there. But I didn't feel like, I never felt stressed coming home with a report card. That's what I would say. And I wasn't a straight A student in matric. I did get quite a few A's, but it wasn't like a straight A student throughout. And if there were any drops and things like that, my parents would come into school and find out about that. So I never felt like stress about grades and things in high school or in varsity as well. They were very supportive of me being at my own pace, but also putting an effort into my education.
So tell us about varsity. Where did you go and what did you decide to study?
So I went into human resource management, and that decision, I wasn't sure, to also answer the other question that you asked, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after high school. I was exploring all kinds of things throughout high school. And so I went and did an aptitude test, and the outcomes of the aptitude test suggested that I study HR, and I studied HR. And that's also why where I'm at now is such a big deal for me to have come to a point where I made a decision about my career direction. But it's not far off, so so that's fine. And then I went to study HR. I did my undergrad and honors after each other at Stellenbosch, and I was at RUC. And that's also where I explored my sexuality. And I had a girlfriend at the time and had to go through that experience of, and I would say more than I was more worried about, I had to go through an internal process with myself to understand who I am. That was more challenging for me than the experience of telling my parents and family and friends and close friends. When I told my parents, they were just wanting to understand and have a conversation. And I'm sure they had an experience of their own that they had to go through in that process. But I sense that they were also grateful to be let into my joy and to understand myself and encourage me to take time to explore myself and think about who I am. And so I would say I had a really wonderful experience sharing that side of me with my parents, and friends.
Can I ask, had you had boyfriends prior to that, and was the desire to experiment, maybe thinking maybe I'm bisexual or queer, had that been something you thought about, experienced earlier in life, dating guys, or was it something that was really at varsity?
Yes, in high school I had boyfriends, and in my early years, like in my first year of varsity, I had boyfriends, but I would say when I had the opportunity, was my first girlfriend approached me, it didn't feel uncomfortable at all. It felt very comfortable and it felt right, and I felt a sense of joy that I hadn't experienced before. And looking back, I saw how seriously I considered engagements with other girls, and even if they were friendly, that was something I took a lot more seriously than anyone else did in high school. But definitely not, I didn't have that awareness at that stage. And I think I was also very stressed out about not fitting in, or being bullied, or just not just not fitting in essentially, and that was very important to me at that stage. And when I left school and had more space again, I was over 18, so a little bit more, not an adult now looking back, but a little bit more when I felt I had space to really explore that side of my identity.
Okay. And the journey to Catherine, I mean, were there others before to help you get to that path? And, you know, how did you meet and how did you know she's the right one?
Well, Catherine, so my first girlfriend Catherine is not my cousin, my first girlfriend, I'll say that. And we actually became friends while I was still dating my first girlfriend. And we were friends since 2011.
Wow.
And we were friends for many, many years, and we both had different partners, just maintaining a good friendship. Always feeling a significant connection, but nothing more than a platonic friendship. And in 2016, Catherine was living quite close by to my mom, so we started seeing more of each other. And her mother passed away as well. And in 2014, my dad passed away. And my experience of losing my father, I realized how significant the experience of losing a parent, especially if you're close with that parent. I don't know any other experience than that. And having to be there for my mother at the time, and understanding the adversity that comes in family dynamics after losing a parent, and all of that. I just understood the gravity of the situation, and I could be there in a way that a lot of people couldn't be, because you really can't understand it until it's happened to you. And I think that really brought us close. That definitely was the thing that brought us very close together. And that was in 2016, and we started dating then, and we fell in love. And I think when I realized I'll move to London, that's when it was like, okay, I didn't hesitate, and I'm actually a risk-averse person, but I didn't hesitate about making that decision, and that's when I started realizing this is very serious, and we started talking about our future together. And the last time we were here in 2020, just before the pandemic hit, we asked our parents for their blessing for our engagement to be married, and Catherine had a beautiful proposal for me. So that was wonderful.
So she was the proposer and you were the proposee.
Yes, I was very lucky. It could have gone either way, but I was very lucky to experience that. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely evening. Yes.
So Roxanne, you mentioned that you were born into church, as it were, your dad being a minister. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the role that faith has played in your life, and maybe how that's intersected with your journey around your sexuality?
I'm happy to share about that. So in my younger years, up to a teenager, church specifically played a very big part of my life. Going to Sunday school, in the church that I was at in Ballard, the United Reformed Church in Ballard, going to a thing called Kinderbond, so it was like another weekday Sunday school, and participating in confirmation, and just, of course, being exposed to a lot of prayer meetings and all of that. So, and just being a Dominic's child, Christianity and being in the church was just a very big part of my life. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that I resisted against or anything like that. And having my father and my mother had a very open perspective on Christianity, an inclusive perspective on Christianity, helped me be open-minded about exploring my faith as well. When we moved from Balaha, I would say it took us a long time as a family to find a new home church. And it was very far to travel from Gordon Bay or Stellenbosch to Balaha every Sunday. So there was quite a long period where we weren't really going to church every Sunday, just visiting churches every now and then, and if my dad was giving a sermon, going there. But I felt very lucky to have spiritual guidance from my father, not in a pushy way at all. Just having some spiritual guidance. Sometimes we would have services on a Sunday, just our family, just a few of us there, and Christmases if we're late and church is like packed and there's no more seats, we would just go home and have a quiet service under the tree at home. So that was really wonderful. So I would say that time coincided with the time that I was exploring my sexuality. So I felt that there was some distance with church, not necessarily faith, but with going to church. Because can't confidently say that the churches that I had gone to, that I would be completely comfortable as I am now here at RUC about being a queer woman. And I mean, Robert is blessing our ceremony, and I just can't imagine that. I always tell people that people will surprise you, but those are my experiences and how it felt at that time. So having that space in my life to have faith, but not necessarily have it be dependent on being a church goer or being part of a church, was actually really wonderful for me. And knowing that my spiritual guidance is coming from someone who cares and loves me unconditionally, my father, actually the flow of things worked very well. It was very long before, we started going to another church in Stellenbosch, but I didn't feel a sense of belong. Or not that I didn't feel like I belonged, I just didn't feel like I would stay there, or loyalty, I would say, a sense of loyalty to that church. Not for any reason, but I just didn't have that sense there. And my father passed away, and my mom and I was living with her still at the time, moved to Wynberg, and we and her friend Charlene told her about RUC, and we started coming in. We were visitors from 2015 to 2018, just coming every now and then, and really aligning with the inclusive perspective and willingness to think differently about Christianity and faith here at RUC was probably the biggest reasons for us becoming home members of the congregation. And I've really enjoyed being part of this, even while being on the other side.
Well, I think it's been one of the blessings of the COVID period is that, with online services,
Yes.
I call them the RUC diaspora,
Yes.
who are spread around the world, can still participate in, watching services, being part of house churches.
Yes.
Done some work with the council around, race issues, so it's been a real blessing in that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Is faith still part of your life? Are you connected with any church in the UK, or how do you see that part of your life now?
Faith is still part of my life, but I would say I haven't joined a church in the UK. I think I'm sure there would be more open-minded sort of churches. I think I'm just not necessarily keen, especially now being able to have the Sunday services virtually. I'm not necessarily keen on going through the exploration phase quite yet.
Yeah.
And I still feel very connected, and I feel like a member as part of the diaspora, definitely, of RUC. So, yeah.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about Roxanne outside of work and relationship. What are your interests, passions? what does fun look like for you?
Yes. So I haven't done this in many years, and well, since I've left for London, but before I left, I was part of a belly dance school, and that was a big source of joy for me, dancing at the Cape Town Carnival, on big stages, but also in like dinner parties in people's homes. I would be there dancing, and I also really, part of that experience that made it so rich wasn't just about the skill of dancing, but the sisterhood in the school.
Okay.
And it was women of all ages, from like 14 to 65, and with different kinds of bodies, and seeing them being proud and dancing beautifully helped me also just get comfortable and have an appreciation for my own body as well. So that was a really, really special experience. I'm still very close with the principal as well. We're still good friends. So that was a very rich experience. I also enjoy singing. I've sang it a couple of times. I enjoy singing, and I really like having time to laugh and dance with friends and glasses of wine, and I like gin and tonic, and eating good food, and just being around warmth and love and getting to know people. On a personal level, I like groups, I like group settings and things like that, but I really enjoy getting to know people and sharing vulnerabilities with people as well.
Wonderful. Have you had a chance to travel around Europe at all, based in the UK, with all that on your doorstep?
Yes, I have. And it's so funny because I think that a lot of people, like locals, UK residents, don't take enough advantage of that. So yes, I've been to Paris quite a few times, mostly because my partner Catherine performs there often. And management space there, so we go there very often, but I think Paris is overrated because I got pickpocketed there, so I think Paris is overrated. And I've been to Belgium a few times, and Italy. I still really want to go to Berlin and Amsterdam, Netherlands, and I've also been to Portugal. So definitely, of course, the pandemic stunted the travel opportunities. But while it was open, I was definitely taking advantage.
Great. So for how long are you here in Cape Town?
I've been here since the end of January, so I'm here for like a good full month. And yes, I've been working from home, from my mother's home, and making my colleagues very jealous when they see me in my shirt, my open sleeves, and they in a big storm. So I'm very happy to be here now and miss all of that.
Roxanne, on Sunday you spoke to the congregation about a new initiative that you've been part of driving. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, happy to talk about that. And it was actually, the initiative was inspired by another one of these conversations with Glenn. And Glenn was talking about his experience about his sexuality and how that coincided with being a church member and Christian. And I thought about my experience as well, and just knowing in certain spaces I feel more comfortable than others in Christian spaces about being open about who I am and who I love and so on. And I thought about, and my partner also, Catherine, she's also had a difficult experience. She's Catholic, so quite a difficult experience there as well. And I just thought, because I belonged to, I chaired this thing called LGBT plus network in the UK, in London at work. And I thought it was just so wonderful just to have a space, a safe space for people who have an understanding of their unique experience to come together and share about what those experiences are and what it means to be queer in this context where we are together. And I wanted to initiate that here at RUC with the context of being part of a church and being a Christian and being a queer person. And it's called In at RUC. And it's called In at RUC because, it would normally be coming out or being out. And coming out of the closet is the phrase. And just thinking about what that means, that there's this closet in the first place that you need to be stepping out of. And who creates that closet? And where does the power lie in having to be sort of hidden and then stepping out? Whereas really it's about taking back the power, where people taking the power of that experiences and saying, I'm letting you in to my joy and to who I am, and I can decide who gets let in and how that experience is. I am who I am, and you can be let in or not, and that's just how it is. I think and having a space of also that queer people are othered in a lot of contexts and don't fit in. And so this is saying, no, you can be yourself and fit in. You can fit in and be unique. You can belong and be yourself. And so it's very small, starting quite small, just with people who identify as LGBT+, or people who are exploring that side of themselves and just want the space to connect with others. Virtual conversations on the first Wednesday of the month. The first one will be on the 2nd of March, 2022, at 7 p.m. South African time. And also doing it virtually so that I can keep it going while I'm on that side as well. So just a safe space to share experiences, connect with others, and just have a safe space of belonging. I think in future, we just want to get started. We can look at allyship and how we can also create space for conversation for loved ones who, like I said, with my parents, I know they must have gone through their own experiences, to have spaces for conversations where there isn't judgment.
Wonderful. I think it's a very important initiative, Roxanne. I know there's many people like your mum at this church who've had children, other family members come in. And, so I think that's very important, as well as young people who are exploring and older people.
Yes,
so it's very welcome, and we're very excited that you proposed it and that we can get it off the ground. So thank you so much, and look forward to following how that progresses over the next few weeks.
Yes.
So Roxanne, it's been wonderful to get to know you a bit better. Thank you for sharing so openly with us, and we wish you all the best with the forthcoming celebration and your new life together in the UK. What's next for you guys? Do you have any special plans, things on the horizon that are particularly exciting?
Well, Catherine, for me, I am completing my probation period, so getting settled in as a permanent person. So that feels very exciting, and just really being able to get stuck into my role at work. And Catherine is going on the road again, performing. Now the things are opening up, and she's also released some new music. Her artist name is Dope St. Jude. So please support her work. Really beautiful music that's coming out, and I was in her latest music video as well. So that was a very liberating experience doing that music video. So for us, we initially imagined ourselves being international nomads for about 10 years. But after these 2 years, we were really thinking about that experience, and now we have a 5-year plan. And hopefully, I'm quite sure it will happen in 5 years' time. We want to move back. So working hard now. We're going to work hard. and come back and settle and have a beautiful home. And for me personally, I do not want to do Monday to Friday working anymore, really thinking about the way I work and where my life is and having a bit more freedom in that way.
Well, wonderful. I hope that it comes to pass. I was going to say famous last words. I think Selena and I moved to the UK, moved to Cape Town thinking it was for 2 years. We're still here for 16 years later. So one never quite knows what the future holds, but from our perspective here at RUC, we'd love to have you back in 5 years. But in the meantime, joining us online and pioneering this new initiative is very exciting. So thank you so much, Roxanne. It's been great.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Russell.